Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well and you had a brilliant Christmas and New Year. I had a lovely Christmas. I just got out of hospital from having a small operation, so I'm a little bit tired, but I wanted to film my first video of this year for you today, and I thought what better way to start off the year than by talking about my favourite books of last year. Last year I managed to read 52 books, and it was a real year of rediscovering my love of reading because I hadn't really been reading a lot the past few previous years, but then I suddenly just forced myself to get back into it and I found myself loving it again. So I'm going to talk about my favourite 10 books that I read. I tried to order these from least of my favourites to most of my favourites, but I just couldn't do it, so I'm just going to pick them out in the order that they're stacked up on my shelf here, and I hope you enjoy it. Oh, and by the way, I got new bookshelves. I treated myself as a Christmas present to some brand new bookshelves and I absolutely love them. So this is going to be my new filming background. Anyway, let's get into it. First off, we have Allegiant, which is the final book in a trilogy by Veronica Roth. It's a dystopic trilogy, very Hunger Games-like, but a lot of people just dismiss it as a rip-off, but I really don't think it is. The reason I connected so much with this series is I really related well to the main character Tris, and I thought the ending of this book was so beautiful and so perfect. I'm not going to go into too much of a summary because it is a third book in a trilogy and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I would definitely recommend it. Despite the negative reviews it's had, I really feel that the decisions she made in this book were really in keeping with character. It broke me emotionally at the end. I did cry, but it was so worth it and I learned a lot from it, so I'd really recommend this one. I'm going to end up saying that about all these books. I really recommend this one, so just know I recommend all these books. The next book is A Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey Niffenger. Niffenger? I think that's how you say it. This was recent, well, not that recently now actually, but it was made into a film which I absolutely loved in the cinema, and I thought it was about time to read the book, and the book was so much better than the film. It just added in so much detail and complexities to the characters. If you don't know, this is about a man who has a rare genetic disorder that causes him to randomly time travel at different points in his life, and it's so interesting. At the core of it, it's a beautiful love story. This book is so moving and it will really take you on an emotional journey. Next up we have The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, and this is a very well known book again, and it's set in the Second World War in Nazi Germany, and it's about a young girl called Lisa, and it's just her story really, and it's so full of emotions. There's so much happiness and innocence, but also so much sadness, and I really like this book because it's narrated by death, which I think is such a unique concept. It was just such a fascinating, really unique story, and I've really enjoyed World War II fiction this year, so if you like historical stories that are beautifully written, then this is one for you. Next up we have this is a non-fiction book, and it's a memoir / autobiography called Girl Interrupted, and it's about a girl who suffers with mental illnesses, and it's all about her experience of being admitted into a mental hospital, and it's all about her experiences of that hospital and how she was treated, and just her observations of lines between being normal and being classified as mentally ill, and that really interested me. It's a really short book and I read it in one day, one sitting, and it was so moving, and I definitely want to reread this because there's so much detail, and the story it takes you on in this many pages, you actually feel like you've gone through the years that she was in hospital with her. There's a film of this as well which is very good, but it's very, very different. I'd say it's loosely based on it, but I'd also recommend that you watch that. But read the book, it is so incredible and you learn so much. Next up we have a book that I don't have on me here. That is called We Are All Completely Beside Ourselves by an author called Karen Joy Fowler, and this book had the best plot twist of any book I've ever read in my entire life. I can't go into too much detail about this one because it will spoil it for you. I didn't pick up on the plot twist until it said it on the page, and I was like, oh my goodness, how didn't I realise that? You may think I'm a little bit stupid because when you look back it is obvious. I found that I really learned a lot about a topic that I was previously quite ignorant about. If you want a shocker and you want, it's again very beautifully written, although it's not an easy read by any means, I would say. It is a contemporary. I'm not going to say anything more other than it's about a girl and her relationship with her sister, and that's enough for you to decide to go and read it on, please, because I need to fangirl about this book with people. Next up we have The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. This is probably, joint with The Book Thief, my favourite fictional book of the year. This was like a piece of art. The way it was written was just so beautiful, and there were so many intricacies, and it was emotional but also uplifting, and it just took you through every feeling. It's about a girl called Susie Salmon who was murdered. It's from her point of view after she was murdered, and that is such an interesting concept, and it's about her sort of watching her family deal with it and move on and trying to discover what happened on the night she was murdered. And it's so dramatic, but it also left me feeling very peaceful somehow. So I would definitely say, if you're going to read any of the fictional books I've mentioned, read this one. It's really short and it's well worth your time. This book is probably one of the least well-known books on my list this year, and this is called Will You Remember Me by Amanda Prowse. I believe this is the second book of a duology, and it's about a lady called Poppy Day, but I haven't read the first book. I need to, but I didn't find that bothered me reading or understanding this at all. Out of all these books, this is the one I heart-wrenchingly sobbed at. It's about cancer, and it's a story about dying, but it's just, if you want to read a real raw story that's not glamorized and doesn't add any drama or anything to just the raw story of what it's like to have cancer and what it's like to feel like you're leaving behind everything you love. It is so emotional. So if you don't want to cry, then don't read this. But if you just want something that's gonna really teach you and make you feel like you've been on that experience with someone, teach you about the pain they go through, teach you about a wonderful character. There's so many funny bits in this as well. I absolutely fell in love with Poppy. I'm really raving about this one because I feel like not enough people have heard of it and read it. So read this one. If you like chick flicks, or if you like weepy books or weepy films, it's so easy to read and you fall in love with these beautiful, beautiful characters. Next up we have Stargirl by Jodi Spinelli. I think that's how you say it. I'm so bad at pronouncing authors' names. This is, I think of this as almost like a modern day parable, or yeah, it really teaches you something about how your small acts of kindness can impact on others' lives in ways you maybe would never even realise. This is about a girl called Stargirl, and she is just the most selfless, kind person in the world, and I feel like some people might find her a bit irritating because she's almost too perfect, but she was absolutely inspirational to me, the way she was just so giving. And it's a love story again, and it's from the point of view of a boy called Leo, and it's about their sort of relationship. It's set in a high school, and it's really short. Again, it's so easy to read. I read this in a couple of days, a couple of sittings, and it is magical and beautiful and really easy to read, but it will leave you thinking about what more you can do to spread positivity and joy in the world. Next up we have another autobiography, and this book is called The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. If you read one book out of the list I have mentioned, any of these, just one, read this one. It's set in the Second World War again, but it's an autobiography about a lady called Corrie ten Boom, who is very, very influential in a lot of like Christian spheres. It is a Christian book, but I don't think if you're not a Christian then you'd find that a problem, because it's just so inspirational, and I left this book feeling really close to God, which is wonderful to me. But it also sort of, I haven't even summarised it yet. It's about Corrie ten Boom, and she hid Jews in her house during the Second World War when the Nazis were sort of trying to send them all to concentration camps. It just blew me away how giving a human can be. She sacrificed so much. I don't want to tell you too much about this, just read it. It's not an easy read again. It is quite emotional, but it also, you'll learn a lot about the Second World War, but also about an amazing, incredible woman who is one of the most inspiring people ever, in my opinion. Everybody should read this and learn about her story. And lastly was probably the most influential book this year. I don't have a copy of it on me because I gave it away to a friend, but I'm going to buy another copy so I can read it again and again. And that is 1 Million Lovely Letters by Jodi and Bickley. I have chronic pain, and she managed to write down the experience of living with constant agonising pain in a way that I never could. It's not just, it doesn't just pull you down though, that's the thing, because her story, again, it's another, all these books are really inspirational in different ways, but this one just shows you how you can take so much pain and suffering and turn it into doing good things for others. And that's really what has driven me this year, that one book. It drove me to start Bracelets for Broken because it's a bit different but inspired by her idea of 1 Million Lovely Letters. But I tried to put my own twist on it because I didn't want to copy such a beautiful idea. But if you want to know any more about chronic pain, if you want to know any more about just an amazing girl's story called Jodi and Bickley, then read this book. I think that's it. That's my top 10 books. There's a good mixture in there. My goal for reading for this year is 75 books. It's quite an increase, quite a challenge, but I'm hoping to achieve it. I'm going to try and read a lot more fantasy books this year because I feel like last year it was very contemporary heavy. I'm currently reading the Harry Potter series for the very first time and it's so exciting. So tell me down below if you like what was your favourite book of 2015, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye!